Ooh, we're live. Good morning and happy Tuesday. It's 1 week before Election Day. I'm Ted Rall, and over there on the other side of the screen is guest co-host Scott Stantis, cartoonist for the Chicago Tribune, and a lot of other stuff. Manila Chan is out sick again today. Hopefully she'll be back again. She'll be back again tomorrow. We'll let you know what happens there. However, you are tuned into the Ted Manila Information Show, TMI for short, where we bring you way too much information, or maybe just enough. Anything from news, politics, lifestyle, culture, fad diets, what the kids are up to, what the kids are not up to. Mainly, that's what they're up to. The taboo, the occult, anything and everything goes, because you can never have too much information. If you are looking for a straight-laced, button-down news program, this show is not for you. On my screen, it's stuff you know you want to hear about, and maybe some stuff you never knew you needed to know. And maybe Scott and I will have a few laughs along the way. We are live Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern Time. So be sure to like and follow this show. The Ted Manila Information Show with guest host Scott Stantis starts now. I don't know if we have a little opening credit thing. We are... filling in. It's much appreciated.
Sure, absolutely. I've got to admit that in that intro, the picture of you, when it says political cartoons, laughing with your, there have been many nights where, Ted and I, what's the word I'm looking for? Drank too much. And you had that look on your face then too. But it's great to be on the show. And I really hope Manila feels better. Yeah, I'm really.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like she hasn't authorized me to say what's up. It's too bad because there's so many medical procedures that have so many references that I would be able to make jokes about. But hopefully she's listening. Manila, we're pulling for you. Hang in there. It's definitely not serious, but hopefully it'll be resolved fairly soon. So we'll maybe even by tomorrow. We'll see what happens there. We had been planning to take day off anyway, so we'll see what happens for tomorrow. First of all, before we get into the headlines, Scott, it's a little freaky. The election day is a week from today, and this morning I woke up to or maybe it was last night. You sent me You sent me the links to the latest Las Vegas betting odds, and I thought that was super interesting. We had been anticipating that the House and the Senate were going to flip. This still confirms that Vegas bettors think that the Senate will go Republican, but now they seem to be thinking the House will also go Republican, and this is with an over 60% chance, not of votes, but the 60% chance that Donald Trump will win re-election and repeat a Grover in 1892 when he did that. So it's kind of
pulling a Grover Cleveland just sounds like a really bad sex position, doesn't it?
Well, and he did have a sex scandal, so that seems fair.
Oh, and he married his de facto daughter. He married his ward, who was 21. He was 56. So very Trumpian.
And Woody Allenian.
That's right. Oh my God, yeah.
Although I don't think Soon Yi was Woody Allen's ward technically. He was more just like the boyfriend who was always there. So it's pretty crazy. I gotta say, before we move on to this, I mean, if there's anything that's going to freak out Democrats more than Donald Trump coming back to power, it's going to be a trifecta of a Republican Supreme Court, a Republican House and Senate, and Republican president. No?
Yeah, I was shocked by that because my presumption was looking and quite frankly not doing as deep a dive into the polls for the House as I should have. But I was just stunned to see, because let's face it, people who are betting are going to do that deep dive because they're putting their money literally where their mouth is. They're saying they believe 60 plus percent tile chance that Donald Trump is going to be the next president of the United States. And Kamala Harris, the betting on her was like 38%. I mean, it was incredibly low. In fact, there was like 4% that a third party person would win. So, so I put 1,000 down on the third party because that would pay off huge.
Can you imagine being down $1,000 on a third party and having it work out? Speaking of third parties, I saw a hilarious meme. It's like, third parties, what a wasted vote. And there's a picture of Abe Lincoln in 1860.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. It's not a wasted vote, folks. It just isn't. And
it's just a vote.
A friend of ours, Rachel Blevin, on her show just did an interview with Chase Oliver, the Libertarian candidate for president. Guys, do yourself a favor. Just check out that interview. And while you're at it, look at the interview that Ted and I did on our podcast, DMZ America. And you will be so impressed. This guy is so lucid, so grounded, so smart, so focused on issues that, I mean, it's such a relief compared to, I don't know, the two duopoly that's being shoved down our throats.
It's amazing to me, right? Like the two, it's like, what kind of fucked up world is it that the serious candidates are Cornel West, Jill Stein, and Chase Oliver, who get no coverage at all and are treated like dog shit and like they're the clowns. And then the clowns who don't have anything to say and are morons, they're monopolizing the whole show.
Yeah, we're going to try to get Chase back on DMZ America podcast one last time before the election. And I talked to his people, and he's like, yeah, he's free. I'm going, how in the name of everything that holds?
Why is he free?
It's a week before the election. He's a viable alternative who don't want to vote for, a nutty person, and you can pick whatever candidate on the top there you want. I'm just stunned. And Jill Stein, we'd love to have her on as well.
Absolutely. Jill, if you're in your people, if you're listening, seriously, we'd love to have you before the election when it would probably do you more good. Look, you will get a more intelligent treatment and probably the same exact numbers as if you go on Joe Rogan, right? So
yes, and the questions will not be, do you want to destroy the nation? Do you want Donald Trump elected? Why are you running? Why? And you're not going to get that.
Wrong? So
how dare you?
How dare you? We are going to be talking right after the headlines. We're going to get into today's show topic, which is going to be about third parties and also what is the dilemma faced by progressives and leftists in the Democratic Party. Should they vote for a Kamala Harris who doesn't seem to be particularly into them or their policy priorities? Should they not vote at all? Should they bite their tongues and support her? Should they go third party? We'll get into that. It's a dilemma that's faced by 25% of the American electorate. So it's well worth discussing. Okay, so let's get into the headlines because we have quite a few. First of all,
really.
And as always, just chime in and we're going to Mystery Science 3000 this whole thing. Israel's parliament has passed 2 laws that could prevent the UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees, the main provider for aid in Gaza, from being allowed to continue to work in Gaza. The laws ban UNRWA from operating. They cut all ties between that agency and the Israeli government. It's a culmination of a long-running campaign in Israel against the agency. Israel claims that it's been infiltrated by Hamas. Supporters say this is a distraction and that its real goal is to sideline the issue of Palestinian refugees. The agency is the major distributor of aid in Gaza, provides education, health, and other basic services to millions of Palestinian refugees across the region, including in the West Bank. The head of the agency, Commissioner General Philippe Lazzarini, called the move unprecedented on X and said that the bills will only deepen the suffering of Palestinians, especially in Gaza, where people have been going through more than a year of sheer hell. Israel accuses the agency of turning a blind eye to staff members it says belongs to Hamas, divert aid and use UN RWA or UNRWA facilities for military purposes. Israel says about a dozen out of 13,000 employees in Gaza participated in the October 7th, 2023 attack against southern Israel. The agency denies that it knowingly aids armed groups and says it acts quickly to fire any suspected militants whenever it finds them among its staff. Scott, what do you think about this? I know you're supportive of Israel.
I'm supportive, but this kind of thing. I mean, listen. I mean, just the numbers that you mentioned now. 12 out of 1,000.
13,000 out of 13,000.
Oh, okay, 13,000. Well, that's
less than 0.1%.
Right, and they have said now whether or not they do it that they are proactive when they learn that they are involved in terrorist groups, as most nonprofits would. They fire them and drum them out. This is one of the, at the very least, Ted, the optics are awful. I mean, it's just like you're saying, here's a group that's going into a place that's been decimated. What is it? 40% flattened. 60%. So, and they're going in and with water, food, medicine, and humanitarian aid for Israel to pass a law saying that you can't do that. I mean, that's ugly stuff. And for those of us who do support Israel and still do, it's hard to reconcile this passage of these two laws with thinking, yeah, these are they're doing the right thing. It's how can I put this, bad? I mean, to really understate it, it's bad. It's so I wish Israel would, kind of take a victory lap. They got rid of the leadership of Hamas. They've really rattled the leadership of Hezbollah. They've won. So now you can take that victory lap. But, the end game was never been exposed to us. Maybe now we'll see it. And maybe, what? I'm willing to concede that it could come down to the Ted Rawl model, which is they want to turn into, they're going to have Trump Tower Gaza, in casino. They could have,
don't leave the casino out.
They could, conceivably just take over the whole place. And that in and of itself would be a terrible decision on Israel's part. It's very self-defeating.
All right, let's keep, I'm not going to add anything to that because I agree with you. During the 6 decades since United Record Pressing stamped out the Beatles' first U.S. single, the country's oldest vinyl record maker has survived 8-tracks, cassettes, CDs, Napsters, iPods, and streaming. Now, the Nashville-based company has rebounded so dramatically that some of its equipment and technology has had to be retrofitted to keep pace with an ever-growing demand for vinyl. The 75-year-old company has adjusted its business from filling jukeboxes to helping DJs spin and stocking shelves despite a pandemic. On shelves in the warehouse are master versions by Johnny Cash, Kanye West, and the Black Crowes. When Mark Michaels bought the company in 2007, vinyl was fading. Its 38 employees mostly made singles for rappers, often promos for clubs. Today, the company runs a newer factory 6 times bigger than when it was bought, with about 125 employees who crank out 8,000 records a day. During the 1980s, records dwindled to a niche market. DJs still needed records for their turntables. Rap and hip-hop artists used them for scratching, but CDs had overtaken them. By the late 2000s, indie artists were insisting on releasing vinyl records. By 2015, records were broadly embraced again, but there were few manufacturers and they were relying on presses from the 60s and 70s and a limited number of specialists who knew how to run them. Demand increased again during the coronavirus pandemic. In 2023, Scott, U.S. revenues from vinyl records grew 10% to $1.4 billion. The 17th straight year of growth, according to the Record Industry Association. Records now account for 71% of revenues from non-digital music, and for the second time since 1987, their vinyl outpaced CDs in total numbers sold.
Yeah, I mean, CDs, remember when they told us, I mean, Ted and I are of a certain age, and CDs we were told were indestructible. You could play Frisbee with your dog and then put it in the player and it'll be just fine. Well, Bowser put an end to that rumor and that lie. I love my son. My son's been moving, and my youngest son, and he has vinyl and he has a record player. And Ted, there's something very inviting and warm when you turn on the record player and you put that needle down and you hear that, just that very warm. Yeah. It's phenomenal. So I understand why people love it. I mean, it never went completely away. There were aficionados, but it's a very niche market. That is astounding. $1 billion business now. Holy wow. Well, maybe my bell bottoms and my platform shoes are going to make a comeback. I'm glad I held on to them.
It's awesome, right? I mean, I still have all my old vinyl, and I do have a pretty great collection of records because I was an avid collector at the time. I never got rid of them.
Mostly punk, though, right?
Punk and new wave and stuff like that. But also, I'm a huge fan of 1960s garage rock, like Question Mark and the Mysterians, the Standells, that kind of stuff. I have a lot of records, several thousand, and I used to be a record critic. So, they'd send them to you for free.
That's awesome. Wasn't that the best?
Oh my God. I used to come home and there'd be a box from like Warner with like 12 records in it every single day. I mean, I was so spoiled. When I reviewed the records, I would literally drop the needle like randomly in a few places and be like, this is shitty metal. Next. And then, like,
really? Did you?
I'd listen to it for like 10 seconds. And then like that gets sold to the used record store. Just rinse, lather, repeat. It was, and then I remember every now and then something would come in and you'd be like, holy shit. I remember the Public Enemy demo cassette, the first one, It Takes a Nation of Millions. I was like, wow, it's like finally hip hop has its own Clash and stuff like that. Or the Bleach by Nirvana. It was like, wow, they've got something there, but it's not really quite there, but they've got something there.
But there was something there.
They'll have it with the poster in it, which is worth a lot.
Oh my gosh.
So, if anyone wants to buy that, get in touch. All right. So let's move on with the headlines. Headline number 3, Vice President Harris will pledge to Americans that she will work to improve their lives while Trump is only in it for himself. Unlike her, who's selfless like the Buddha.
Yes.
As she delivers the closest argument tonight. Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, from the same site where the former president fomented is one of my favorite words, the Capitol insurrection in 21. One week out from election, Harris's 7:30 Eastern address from the Ellipse near the White House is designed to encourage Americans to visualize their alternative
attack the Capitol.
futures.
Oh, no.
Exactly. If it was good enough for Trump,
be awesome. Let's finish what they started. Let's get them.
Finish the job. If Trump takes over, if she loses her mind. Secretly, I've been working for Trump. Rips off her face.
And your dog, you crazy kids, and your dog too. Yeah, it'd be a Scooby-Doo moment.
Totally. Yes, I've always been with the Donald. Donald, I love you.
Well, given her campaign, that actually would not surprise me.
Yes. Well, they have kind of the same policies on a lot of issues, but yes. And if Trump takes over the Oval Office in less than 3 months,
let me ask you,
time running out, go.
Real quick. The idea, I have been a critic of her doing this, and of going to the place because it makes it all about him again. Yeah. Right? She does the speech from the same place. I suspect they're going to try to make it look the same. I have no idea what they're going to do.
Maybe she'll wear a red hat.
I just don't know that this is the best thing for her to do. I mean, it's going to be very high profile, but it's going to be all about him. I don't think it's a wise decision. It would be. I'm trying to think about this. It would be like if in 1984, if Mondale had gone in front of the Berlin Wall and said, "Mr. Gorbachev, go ahead and keep the wall up."
It's fine.
It doesn't make a hell of a lot of sense to me politically. It just doesn't. I mean, the optics. I think I know what they're going for, but I mean, you and I.
Parenthetically, it's funny that you should bring that up, right? Because if you just think about it. Reagan is a revered figure in the Republican Party. I know you admire him. And what were the East Germans and the West Germans trying to do? They were just trying to prevent illegal immigration.
Wow. Okay.
That's true, right?
Well, the East was trying to keep the people in. That's one of the, that's a major.
That's illegal. Okay,
difference.
they were trying to prevent illegal emigration.
Yeah, okay, that's not a fine line at all.
Right. With time running out and the race razor tight, Harris and Trump both have been looking for big moments to try to shift the momentum one way or the other. But after her speech in the nation's capital, Harris will be back to furiously scouring for votes in the swing states. Tonight, aides said she is planning to look beyond the startling imagery of her location on the ellipse. Then why do it? To make a broader case for voters to reject Trump and consider what she offers. She's hoping to draw a massive crowd. There's a big difference between he and I, Harris told reporters. If he were elected on day one, he's going to sit in the Oval Office working on his enemies list. On day one, if I'm elected, which I fully expect to be, I will be working on behalf of the American people on my to-do list. Scott, what's on her to-do list? If you know, can you share with the rest of us? Because nobody's told me.
It's like Nixon's secret plan to end the war in 1968 writ large, isn't it? We just don't know. She's going to get in there, and boy, are we going to be surprised. And she's not wrong. We're going to be surprised.
He does. We'll be surprised. That's
yeah.
True. Okay, here we go. The scariest things lurking around the corner this Halloween will not be monsters or ghosts. According to doctors, it's cars. Halloween is one of the deadliest days of the year for pedestrians, especially for children. There's a lot of focus on the risks of candy that are misplaced, says Brittany Lombard, injury prevention manager at Children's Hospital Colorado. But one thing experts are sure of, she said, is an increase in child pedestrian fatalities. Lombard also urged people to drive the speed limit, don't drink and drive, and pay close attention to the road, especially at night. There's going to be a lot of kids out when it gets dark and there's limited visibility. Yeah, because it's night. Backing out of driveways can be particularly dangerous on Halloween with kids running from house to house. Lombard recommends rolling down your window to listen for kids, as well as checking for them in all of your mirrors. And of course, you know, if you have that camera, and reversing slowly. Scott, you know, I have one with one of those reverse cameras. I think most people do at this point. And they're not that good.
No, some of them are
have a lot of blind
crappy.
spots.
Yes, and you know, another suggestion is don't dress your kid up as an evil black-clad witch, because you know that pretty much makes them invisible at night.
So you're saying they should all be dressed up like club kids from the late 1990s in fluorescent outfits
with the shake glow sticks and so.
That is probably safer.
It probably would be. They could be carrying mirror balls. That'd be cool. I'd love to see that. That'd be actually. I think I'm making my Halloween costume even as we're speak.
Do you ever dress up for Halloween? I have to say, one of the reasons I never go to Halloween parties is because it's generally expected that one should dress up. And I do. The only year I had a really successful outfit was the year I dressed up as Osama bin Laden. But the fake beard kept getting into my mouth and it was a miserable evening. So I was like, people otherwise pretty cool about it, I think, considering.
You wore that in New York?
In New York, yeah, that's right.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that must have really made everyone chortle.
Well, you know.
What the hell's wrong with you?
My whole vibe. Well,
it does go with your vibe.
There's always evil public figures as, you know, on Halloween, right? There were Saddam Hussein's. There were all sorts of stuff. So.
I wonder how many kids went as Hitler in 1930s and 40s.
That's a good fucking question. And I'm going to bet some did.
Who's a cute little Hitler? Who's a cute little Hitler?
Your mom
Trick or Blitzkrieg.
Now, what I really want to know is if anyone dressed Eva Braun. But all right, let's keep going here. Last but not least, 5 elephants in a I'm really curious. I have no idea where you're going to come down on this, Scott. 5 elephants in Colorado Zoo could someday sue for their freedom if the state Supreme Court sides with an animal rights group and
good God,
persons under the law. But first, the justices had a few questions about cats and dogs. Clovis, how are you? How do I know when it stops? Justice Melissa Hart said during Thursday's hearing, wondering whether this ruling might someday lead to the emancipation of pets. At stake is whether elephants from the Cheyenne Mountain Zoo should be treated as people under the law. The
Oh, dear
question was
God.
asked several times, but never really answered. The Non-Human Rights Project says the elephants, Missy, Kimba, Lucky, Lulu, and Jumbo, should be able to use a long-held process that's mainly for prisoners to dispute their detention. The group says the animals, born in the wild in Africa, are showing some signs of brain damage because the zoo is essentially a prison for such intelligent and social creatures known to roam for miles a day. They want the animals released to one of the 2 accredited elephant sanctuaries in the United States because the group doesn't think they can live in the wild anymore. The group unsuccessfully sued in 2022 on behalf, I'm familiar with this case, on behalf of an elephant at the Bronx Zoo named Happy. The highest court in New York State ruled that Happy, while intelligent and deserving of compassion, unlike many politicians, cannot be considered a person who is illegally confined with the to pursue a petition seeking release.
Oh, dear God. Okay, here's the thing. You know what the litmus test for me on this one is?
Are you an elephant?
Walk up to the elephant and ask it the question. If it answers, you release it. There you go.
That's got that. I've heard you say a lot of things over the years. That's the dumbest thing you've ever said.
Oh, come on. No, Ted.
Because, okay, if I walk up to a guy in New Delhi, well, okay, bad example because I speak English there. If I walk up to a guy in Mongolia and ask him the question, I'm asking in a language that he doesn't understand. It doesn't mean he's not a human being or that he's an idiot, you know?
I understand that, but
animals do speak. They do have language. A lot of animals do.
They have a very basic language, a very basic way to communicate. We have to treat them humanely. Now, don't misunderstand me. I mean, it sounds to me like if there's an animal preserve that's available, then I would definitely use that versus because the enclosures do seem to be inhumane, especially for an animal like an elephant. Massive, you can't possibly have in a zoo surrounding the amount of space it would need for it to be comfortable. So, I'm not against treating animals humanely, but I'm also not in favor of treating them like and giving them human rights. That's nuts. That's stupid.
Well, I mean, there was once a time when the idea of giving African Americans equal rights, or women, or non-propertied white guys equal rights as human beings was considered outlandish. And, obviously civilization has progressed. And, and now we do that. We do those things. And I think, for example, now I think it's a little strange that, say, a 17-year-old can't vote. I don't really understand why they can't. I'm just saying, it's
because I think the same rules apply. I mean, I would agree with you. And I think that would be a very interesting point of discussion on a later show to talk about should juveniles be able to vote. But juveniles also have protections because they're a protected class, because would it be safe to say juveniles and animals share the inability to defend themselves against adult assault? I think tigers, I'm using that a very broad.
Wolves have probably got it covered.
Yeah, not if the human being has a very large gun. That's coercion, and that's so that's where I'm coming from. I mean, I'm saying it in very base way, but we have an obligation.
Elephants are incredibly intelligent.
So are octopuses. I mean, they're probably more in some ways more intelligent.
Dolphins, porpoises, a lot of animals are very smart.
Yes, but again, I come back to say smart enough to enlist and be able to exercise human rights. I would argue that probably not
human, but personhood.
Okay, personal, but and have some autonomy. I mean, be able to express it.
Personhood under U.S. law, thanks to the Supreme Court decision. In Citizens United, but a corporation can't talk really. A corporation can't really think. It's an amalgam of people.
Right.
It doesn't have thoughts by itself. It's just a piece of paper, in a PO.
No, but as an entity, it's a human entity. I disagreed with by the way, that decision. I thought it was idiotic. Cash being speech is, I don't know. I would doubt the founding fathers would go, yeah, that's true. Although frankly, they were all land and people owning human beings. So there it is.
True.
I would say, you can say, is the animal being held in the best possible, most humane
Not if it's in a
environment. No. And I'd say zoos, 90% of those animals are not.
I mean, you could literally not have the discussion about how smart they are and just simply say an animal with immense range should not be so confined. I mean, think about lions, tigers, all sorts, even much smaller animals have considerable range. I mean, in the New York Central Park Zoo here, there's a very small, little seal enclosure. Seals, they travel miles a day. I mean, but they're not going anywhere. They're just like in an aquarium. And it's got to make them crazy.
But on the other side of that, they've tried to reintroduce mountain lions into Southern California, into the California mountains. Well, not surprisingly, there's not a lot of food up there. You know where there's a lot of food, Ted? Around houses. Not least of which is 3, 4, and 5-year-old children, which the mountain lions now occasionally go and grab, which led to, I can remember this when I was living in Southern California as a kid, as a 5-year-old, or as mountain lions like to call it, a snack. A 5-year-old fairly close to us was attacked, killed, dragged off by a mountain lion. And that started the state from going, okay, maybe having mountain lions around human beings is not a great idea. We can be sympathetic and still, be smart about this. And, but
I want elephants roaming free through the streets of Manhattan. I mean, we don't have enough traffic as it is, and we're going to have traffic. Let's have some fucking traffic.
Well, mountain lions, that would take care of the homeless issue.
Well, that's true.
I mean, if we're going to be
elephants would probably take care of lots of issues. They'd stomp all over people's cars, and so yeah.
I like this idea. Okay,
all right. There are elephants in the streets. So I don't know if this is still true, but for a long time, half the world's elephants lived in Thailand, and that's because they're often used for construction, for example.
Oh wow!
And they're very they can hold. I've seen them pass an I-beam up to a construction worker. They're so cool. Elephants are amazing. Anyway, all right. So let's talk about what we said we were going to come talk about.
Okay.
What do you do as a voter when your party isn't that into you? Progressive and other left-leaning Democrats are once again wrestling with the dilemma they've seen before. Kamala Harris has pivoted to the right of her party, eschewing progressive policies, campaigning with far-right lunatic Liz Cheney, and supporting Israel against Gaza and Ukraine against Russia. Should progressives support Harris despite the fact that she's snubbing them, hoping that she secretly plans to move to the left if she wins? Or should they punish her by voting third party or even for Donald Trump? Or should they abstain from voting entirely? This is a dilemma that progressives have found themselves in election after election after election. Hillary Clinton snubbed them. The same thing happened with Barack Obama, over and over and over. The only real exception in recent years was Joe Biden in 2020. He emerged from a crowded Democratic primary in which the party was extremely recognizing of the fact that 3 to 4 million Bernie voters who showed up in the primaries did not show up for Hillary in the previous cycle. And they were like, okay, well, we can't win without the progressive coalition. So Bernie Sanders, if you will remember, of course, had a holy trinity: $15 minimum wage, student loan forgiveness, and Medicare for all. Every single candidate except Biden embraced all three of those in the primaries. But nonetheless, Biden was very, very clear that he intended to allow progressives to have a seat at the table, not to run the show, but they were there. Yeah. There were some of them who were brought into the administration. And progressives did turn out to vote for Joe Biden. Only 0.2% voted for the Green Party candidate, Howie Hawkins, in 2020. That's a huge drop from 2016, Bill Stein. Granted, it's a different candidate, but still, so what? I mean, obviously, look, you're not a progressive, but as a libertarian, you have sort of similar kind of. I think it's fair to say the Republican Party has not been too good about libertarian principles.
Oh, terrible!
In recent cycles, especially since the rise of Donald Trump, he doesn't seem to care much about libertarianism. So. No. It's I mean, what do people, I'm being told the mature thing to do is to just accept reality and like, okay, so, you don't agree with Kamala Harris on some important issues like Israel's treatment of Gaza, but you bite your tongue because, she's going to get you closer to progressive goals than Donald Trump will. And then the counter argument is, well, if you keep doing that in cycle after cycle, there's no reason for the Democratic Party to ever pay attention to progressives. So why not do what voters did in 2016? Punish the Democrats, whack them on the nose, and say, "Cut the shit, or we won't vote for you. We will let you lose," and have them learn that lesson, and then they'll move to the left next time.
Well, you've suggested, and I think you have a point. I mean, this is predicated, and I do really want to preface this by saying, now I'm speaking as someone who's followed politics for 40 years and likes good politics and see, I think I have an idea of what winning politics is. You have said several times that it looks like Harris is taking advice from, at least looking at the Hillary Clinton campaign of 2016 and using that as her template in mood and temperament in terms of ignoring her left flank. And, it's insane because it's like, if I'm remembering correctly, and I know that I am, Hillary lost. It was a losing proposition. The other thing, this whole idea that the Democratic Party just telling voters, especially young voters, Ted, that, hey, just don't fight it. Just don't fight it. How many predators have used that phrase and said, don't fight it. Just don't fight it. Well,
lean back and think of England.
Yeah, precisely. Kamala Harris is not saying anything progressive as far as I can see. Reproductive rights, I guess you could say, puts it in that realm, but really the issues that rile up the progressive flank of the Democratic Party, she's not addressing in a serious way at all, and just taking them for granted and saying, what are you going to do? Well, guess what? 2016 showed us exactly what they can do. 3 to 4 million less votes than Barack Obama got 4 years prior in 2012. So it's not a smart strategy. You throw a bone. You can do, in Trump, if you wanted, the libertarians could throw some libertarian ideas out there. He doesn't care, like you say, because, libertarians aren't going to vote for him. On the progressive side, she could conceivably throw progressive ideas out there. $15 minimum wage, which probably needs to be higher.
More, yeah,
should be more. But it takes at least one of the Bernie planks and voice that and put that forward. 2 or 3.
Student loan forgiveness would make sense since Biden.
Well,
it would be a continuation of a Biden policy, although it doesn't.
Right.
The president has that power.
No. And that's the problem, is it's been kind of a catastrophe for Biden in that he's proposed it. It's been shot down several times by the court. And I think rightly. I don't think the president of the United States is not a king, cannot just, summarily snap his fingers and say, I forgive the loans. But she could say, I'm going to work with Republicans. I'm going to work with Democrats. We're working towards debt forgiveness and take away this terrible burden on Americans. And many it is. That's how
honestly, just one of my proposed reforms, which is a very moderate thing by Ted Rawls standards, would be that student loan interest should not be profit achieving for banks or for lenders. In other words, you can get a loan, but it's market rate and no profit. So there are people who have Parent Plus loans. Some of them are over 20% in the interest.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's usurious. It's not right. At bare minimum, the government should not be making a dime in profit off of young scholars who are trying to start their careers and their lives. We need them to come out of college as debt-free as possible so that they can afford to, first of all, I think this is important, to take jobs doing things that may not pay that well, like becoming teachers and nurses. And we also need them to be able to buy their first car, buy their first home, and so on. When you have them indebted. Oh, so I had expected this moment. That is my grocery delivery. Scott, I'll let you comment on that while I go buzz them in.
Okay, so as Ted buzzes in his groceries, so Ted can eat, thank God, because we'd hate for him to shrivel away to absolute nothing or reschedule his delivery. But going on with this idea, when Tim Walz was chosen by Kamala Harris to be her running mate, he had strong progressive bona fides going forward. As the governor of Minnesota, he proposed many forward-looking progressive ideas and ideals, got them passed. Fascinatingly, he has been shut down. And I often wonder, looking back on his terrible debate performance and just his performance on the stump, which has not been inspiring in my view, has not been, certainly not inspiring to progressives. Again, I speak as someone who follows politics. But did all show up, Ted?
Well, I'm going to have to go and open the door. Okay. That's just the buzzing.
Okay.
Well, first I have to get past my sentry.
Oh, Clovis, yes, of course.
As you know, the Swiss Guards. Yeah.
I was just talking about Walz and how he's been effectively neutered on the campaign. This was a progressive, a very progressive, maybe the most progressive governor of a state in the United States, and he has been shut down. And his debate performance was terrible. I really think if he had hit Vance with progressive ideas and progressive legislation that he's passed, instead of running from it and running towards it, that's Trump taught us anything. It's like, own it, own everything you do. If you believe in it, even a little bit.
Okay, I'm going to go open the door. Keep talking. Be right back.
Okay. So to Walz's disgrace, I think that he has been ratcheted back. And part of the complaints about the Harris campaign has been that it's been so cautious to a fault, that it's not inspiring people. And especially now we're a week out, they really should be inspiring people to get out and vote. There should be white hot enthusiasm. Now, does Trump have that? I don't know that it's any more or any less than it's been the last two times he ran. But for Harris, you should have this sense of, if not inevitability, at least possibility that, the Trump era, I think they're delivering an elephant to Ted, is what I think they're doing. Holy Mary. Oh my God. Well, we may never see him again, folks. Oh, there he is. You're back. Were they delivering an elephant? Because wow.
Yeah, Happy is here from the Bronx Zoo, and she has already decided she wants to upgrade my Netflix subscription. All right.
And change your car warranty.
She said she wants Animal Planet Plus. I'm like, okay, all right.
All right, you get you're literally the 1,200-pound elephant in the room. You get what you want.
I mean, look, when you're living with a 12,000-pound animal, you're that's how it is.
But by turns, Clovis will still make Happy his bitch.
That's true, because he's still Clovis, the king.
Yeah. So I was just saying that, Ted, to catch you up.
On my own show. Yeah.
Walz has essentially been neutered. And if you look at his stump speeches and his debate performance, they're not allowing him to own the progressive policies that he's embraced as governor of Minnesota. And so the one ace in the hole she had, she's kind of thrown away. And in my view, I mean, again, talking as someone who loves politics, he was the one who was going to bring the kids in, right? He was the one who was going to be deployed at college campuses and said, hit all the progressive G spots and tickle them in a way that Kamala can't. But they've wasted that resource. And that tells you a lot about Kamala Harris and her campaign and where it is today. I was just saying that we're a week away. The enthusiasm for Harris should be white hot.
Oh, I know. No, it's true. I mean, it just seems so long ago since the Tim Walz pick. I mean, I remember when he was picked. I mean, granted, he was from a certain list, right? It's not like, there were, all sorts of other people being considered. But on her list, from her list, he was the progressive one. And he has done some good things in Minnesota. So, but you're right. He's been neutered. He is basically been gelded So it's it's sad to see. Let me read you something from the New York Times. There's a piece title, "As Harris Courts Republicans, the Left Grows Weary and Alienated. The Vice President's tack to the right, support for Israel in the Gaza war, and incremental policy proposals have alienated progressives and raised worries about waning liberal energy." Here's a quote from the article.
Yeah.
In making her closing argument this month, Harris has campaigned 4 times with Liz Cheney, stumping with her more than with any other ally. They're like BFFs. She has appeared more in October with Mark Cuban than with Sean Fain, the president of the UAW and one of the nation's most visible labor leaders.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
And he's a very charismatic guy, Sean Fain. She has centered her economic platform on middle-class issues, right? She always says, like, I grew up middle class, at like small
Everybody's middle class. We got that's.
If I were running, I'd be able to say truthfully, I grew up poor. She has centered her economic platform on middle-class issues like small businesses and entrepreneurship rather than raising the minimum wage, a deeply held goal of many Democrats that polls well across the board. She has taken a harder line stance on the border than has any member of her party in a generation. She's talked more about owning a Glock than about combating climate change, and she has not broken from President Biden on the war Israel is waging in Gaza. This was published in a newspaper that has repeatedly endorsed her, loves her, wants her to win, hates Donald Trump. So I mean, this is definitely they're trying to warn the campaign.
But can I pat you and me on the back real quick and just say we have been saying this. Well, first we said it about Biden, and we caught a load of shit for that because we said he's senile. He shouldn't be president. True. And as the years progressed, we said, did you see the appearance here or there? Because we saw what we saw and we heard what we heard, and we have salient intelligence, and we could determine that Joe Biden was senile. I'm not sure if you've seen him in the last few days.
Oh boy,
Mary. Oh boy.
Yeah.
And again, I'm a family member who's going through dementia now, and I'm not making fun. I'm saying this is the leader of the free world who is incapacitated.
It's terrifying. Yeah, so and he still has the launch codes, presumably, right? I mean,
well, yeah. And so with Harris, you and I have said from the beginning, she has not. If you look at her campaign from 2020, and you look at her performance as vice president, she is not going to be inspiring. She will not be inspiring. Yes, she is. She's a woman of color. It's a historic thing, and all that is true. But Barack Obama was a person of color, but he was inspiring. He could speak and have cohesive policies and articulate them in a way that she can't or won't. I'm going to say can't.
And probably won't have a chance to because it doesn't look good for her.
As Ted suggested, she is an untalented politician. And I think that's a great description.
I think Hillary Clinton was also untalented.
Oh, untalented as a politician. She would have been great as a head of a federal regulatory commission.
Sure. No. Here's FDA chief Hillary Clinton. Done.
Yeah, she'd be terrific. I mean, really. I mean, feel like, okay, that's a competent person. And now let's move it to Vice President Harris and just say, again, not inspiring. And she should be an inspiring figure, quite frankly. Barack Obama was an inspiring figure in 2008. There's no doubt about it.
Mm-hmm.
There are people like, I don't know, Ted Rall, who did not care for him coming from the progressive side because he saw a cautious politician. And you weren't wrong. Again, you called it. His administration will go down as transformative because there is an African-American president. But in terms of actual accomplishments, it's going to go down as fairly mediocre.
Let me read you. So the New York Times. Obviously I read the New York Times every day, and a bunch of other stuff. I read conservative papers like the New York Post. Anyway, the Times has been having a series. I'm sure you've seen these, Scott, of focus groups with undecided voters, moderate voters,
sure.
And so they have a slate of them in today's paper. About which you can find online. It's about Michigan voters. And these are voters who, interestingly, basically say they dislike Donald Trump's personality and most of them plan to vote for him nonetheless. Let me here. I
Wow.
want to focus
Wow.
on the
I mean,
answer to this one question. Let's talk directly about the candidates. When you think of Kamala Harris, what is one word that comes to mind? Not
oh
believable.
God. What?
Not believable. Deceptive. I would agree with deceptive. Fake. Opportunist. I would say incompetent. Go-getting. Word salad. Fresh. Unserious. Change. Two positive ones there, right?
Yeah.
Fresh and change. Oh, sorry, 3. Go-getting also. But 8 negative. A lot of them along the same line about deceptive, not credible,
That's
fake.
yeah. That is damning.
I have to say, I mean, these are, of course, people like us tend to roll our eyes at these kind of voters because, these are basically
Yes.
stupid people who don't pay much attention to politics, but they're the people who are going to decide the election, right? I mean, these are the swing voters in the key battleground states. And, their takes on the politicians are impressionistic. They're busy. They're probably more engaged with family, work, sports,
Life.
shopping, whatever, and gaming, whatever else that they care about, and there's nothing wrong with that. But my point is they vote, many of them will vote, and it looks, and I have to say, I share that impression. Deceptive. She's
Yeah. You've been saying that forever.
Yeah, she's either stupid or she's hiding something, and I don't know which. I suspect stupid, but she comes off as shifty. Like, she doesn't seem, when she sits down for an interview, whether it's with Brett Baer from Fox, who really wasn't that mean. Okay.
No, he wasn't. He really wasn't.
He was pretty polite, I thought. He was pretty courteous. He was professional. I thought he did the job correctly. Or whether she's sitting down with Dana Bash from CNN, who's a friendly interview. Either way, she looks like she's being deposed by a hostile attorney, and she's scared that if she says the wrong thing, she's going to go to prison.
Well put.
And she's running out the clock. That's where the word salad comes in, where she's just like, it's kind of like the kid who didn't study for the test, and answer must be at least 250 words. And Nathaniel Hawthorne has written many books, and Nathaniel Hawthorne is known as an American author and who has had a lot of influence on the world of American letters. How many words is that? 25. And it's like, so that's what she seems like she's doing, like running out the clock. Brett Baer alluded to that himself. He said he felt that in the interview. In fact, she arrived late and there was a fixed amount of time, and she seemed to be filibustering, right? That's shady. I don't know. I mean, I think this comes down to my narrative. Devil Donald Trump, and he's the devil for sure. Big devil, horns, bright red, fork, cloven hooves, pointy tail, the whole 9 yards. Like, but and we just don't know her. And I think more people. It's like right now, I'm driving a car. It doesn't know. It has trouble starting. It's 9 years old, but I like that car because I know that car. And I'm a little bit worried about buying a new car, even though a new car should run better, because this is the devil I know. Do I want to buy a new car? I think that's where the voters are right now.
Well, and the other thing is, you live in New York City, where you have an option where you don't need a car at all. You can just hop on the subway. You can take an Uber. You can take a taxi.
Voting's like that too. You could vote third party or not at all.
Well, and
you don't have to vote.
And we're having this discussion this week, which is driving me nuts, about should people vote third parties? Are third parties there to destroy democracy? I'm going, they're the definition of democracy, but that's another issue altogether.
The more choice you have, the more democracy you have.
Bum, 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 bum. Yeah, that's not a hard alchemy to follow, Ted. It really is. It's arithmetic even a cartoonist can follow. Here's the thing, Ted. You said 1 week to go before the election, 7 days. There should be, and I'm not kidding, white hot enthusiasm. I mentioned yesterday on the show that I was speaking to a family member who is a big Trump supporter, can't wait to go vote. I mean, he is just, chomping at the bit. and he is enthusiastic about his vote, and he's enthusiastic about who he's voting for. I have met precious few people who are enthusiastic about going out to vote for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. I really don't know. And I granted, I live here in Alabama, so you live in New York City, much bluer place. Mm-hmm. Are you facing anything like enthusiasm? I mean, there's an enthusiasm gulf that is massive between these two candidates.
There is definitely enthusiasm for voting against Trump.
Okay.
Fuck him. We're keeping him out. To be fair, I definitely have heard, particularly women. Again, it's a replay of 2016. Again, it's about women of a certain age, even though Harris is younger than Hillary was at the time. It's women of a certain age who are like, they want to see a woman president. We're 250 years overdue for one. They like the fact that they like the look of her. They're like, I want to see a woman as president. I like the fact that she's a woman of color. There are people like that, but I got to say they are precious few. I don't think they amount to even 25% of Democratic voters. I think Democratic voters are there to cock block Donald Trump from ever returning to office. They fucking hate him. And that's what this is about. And I just wanted to sort of do a side thing. Well, actually, let's follow up on that, and then I'll do my side.
Well, I was going to say, the only degree I actually have, advanced degree I have, is from the Campaign Management College of the California Republican Party. And they tell you that one of the things they say is the carrot and stick approach to politics. And so the stick is Donald Trump bad. He's awful. And I'm not going to argue with that. I believe that he is. But what's the carrot here in voting for Harris? What, as progressive Ted Rall, where's your carrot? As progressive student attending college at Kent State or at Berkeley or at Oregon or Texas, what's your carrot? What's your motivation to get out there? Because running strictly on a negative, we were told, and this was a Republican Party, event. You can't just run against somebody. You have to run. You have to run for something. And I don't know that I see, other than,
they will argue that Biden ran simply against Trump in 2020 and won. They're right. But there were, first of all, I want to say three things. Number one, it was close. It was 79 to 74 million votes. Donald Trump got the highest number of votes in losing that race than any American presidential candidate has ever gotten. So he's not to be discounted. Number two, it was a unique set of circumstances due to the pandemic and the crazy way that he behaved. And it was a unique set of circumstances, and this is the big one. He told everyone to not go vote by mail.
Oh, Trump.
So that's not going to happen this time.
Quite the opposite.
So he's told everybody to go vote. So I think that he fixed that. They fixed that mistake. Look, I was thinking about what you said about like the whole, what is the positive inducement? Imagine, this is a world, Democrats and liberals, into a world where you had a candidate like Donald Trump, but who was a lefty, who was as far left as Donald Trump is to the right. So where Donald Trump says, we will mass deport millions of illegal immigrants. Now, forget that you don't want that to happen. Just think about like how radical that is. If you are pissed off about the border, he's like, I don't believe him, but he's like, I'm going to kick all the fuckers out. All of them. Game over. They're all going to go into camps. You're excited about that. If you care about, you don't think these migrants should have come in the first place. He's like, fuck them, get rid of them. Well, so what's a Democratic equivalent? A Democratic equivalent might be fuck Israel. Like, fuck Israel up the ass. We're cutting them off completely. No diplomatic relations. Like, we're throwing them out of the United Nations. We're done with them. We're acknowledging Palestine as an independent country. That's as radical. Now, anybody watching me right now will be laughing because there's no world in which a Democrat like Kamala Harris would ever say anything that's as radical as that, right? So I think Donald Trump gives his base some delicious, tasty, savory nuggets of charred flesh to feast upon. And, to answer your question, I don't really care for carrots, but we're not even being offered carrots. Oh, Scott, where are you? I'm seeing Scott like no longer here.
I'm,
Are you still there?
yeah, I'm still here.
Oh, that's weird. You disappeared from the. Oh, there you are. You're back in the
Yep.
video, back in the picture.
Well, we're coming up on an hour. I think
Put
we're
the
being
kid
told.
back in the picture.
Maybe it's a hint.
So yes, it is a hint. It's a hint from God. So I mean, and I think that
Or
there's
Robbie.
or the same thing. So we kind of like we do need to do. I mean, that's yeah. What's the inducement, right? I mean, so literally, okay. So there might be a $25,000 subsidy for your next home purchase if you're part of a very limited class of home buyers. There might be some kind of program for you if you're part of a class of Black men or Latino men. I think Black women and Black and Latino women are kind of like, there's nothing here for you yet. Maybe, hey, tomorrow's another day, it might come, but no, so far, nothing. If you're an old white guy, fuck you, you get nothing. It's like, it's not pretty picture. It's not a good campaign. It is.
No, it has not
There's all
been.
sorts of stuff that could be promised, like I'd like to, okay, for example, and the only thing that she really promises in any kind of credible way is that she would federally legalize abortion rights. Okay, well, but she won't be able to because she's not going to have a Democratic Senate, one with a 60 vote supermajority, right? That's not going to happen in 8 years. It will not happen. So yeah, there's no inducement. I mean, Republicans, it's all based on lies, but there's an inducement.
Yes, no, I couldn't agree more. So, there's, if you're trying to sell something, she's doing a lousy job at it.
And finally, let me ask you about this last question. This is also from the focus group piece in the Times. And by the way, if you're just joining us here, Scott Stantis, editorial cartoons for the Chicago Tribune, is sitting in for Manila Chan, who is out sick. Okay, so here's the question. What do you all think about by the way, she started saying y'all. Kamala's now saying y'all.
Oh, good God.
Never in the y'all belt. Okay, just say.
No, we do. I'm a Californian. We don't say that. We say you guys. It's what we say.
And you've been living in Alabama long enough that you could have adapted or whatever the y'all thing, but you haven't.
Yes, I have not.
I actually knew some Indian people say y'all, but not Northerners. Okay, anyway, what do you all think about the third party candidates like Jill Stein and about people who say if you're voting for somebody like Stein, you're just throwing your vote away, or you vote away from one of the two major party candidates? Answer from apparently this is a woman wearing hijab, 24. I think that's the point. The point is to show them that they lost your vote. I thought I'd be a Democrat after I voted for Biden, but then I saw what he and Harris did, and that's not who I want. Jill has really been doing her best to reach out to us in a way that's more serious. Kamala has been making these TikToks, participating in trends, but we don't care how cool you are. We care about what you're going to do for us. Being realistic, Jill's probably not going to win, but maybe that'll incentivize them to create more policies that lead toward what she's doing, because that way they see what the voters actually want.
And create a candidate that you just described who's going to say, I'm going to have, single payer. It's past time. We need single payer in this country, period. And, of course, the Fox News and people like me would go nuts and say that you're a socialist, blah, blah, blah. But you own it and you go forward and you embrace these policies that I don't know that there's any passion. And that's what's missing from the campaign is passion. And that's where comes back to my original point, which is a week out, there should be passion.
And I think, and again, I guess to answer the question here, what should a progressive do? I mean, this progressive is going to vote third party. This progressive believes that that a vote is an endorsement. It is not a strategic move to, sort of half-ass your way to closer to where you are. Like, you basically, when you say I'm voting for Kamala Harris, you're saying I mostly agree with most things that she believes in and stands for. Well, I don't. So therefore I'm not voting for her. Now, and that's it. It's really.
And there was a very dismissive piece in a major, I want to say New York Times, it could have been Washington Post, but it says, if you're going to vote third party just to assuage your conscience, Well, shame on you. I'm just going, oh my God.
That seems like a good reason to vote.
Yes, that's the only reason to vote, is to have your conscience. Listen, I often vote libertarian, especially national issues, because the Republican Party had a libertarian wing, much like the Democratic Party had a progressive wing.
Mm-hmm.
I have a button that I stumbled across recently that says Republicans for Choice. I got at the 1988 Republican Convention. It used to have that big of a tent.
1980.
Well, they have told libertarian Republicans like myself, go to hell. We don't want you.
Mm-hmm.
And the Democratic Party has told progressives, go to hell. Vote for us. You don't have a choice. Ha.
Yeah.
Well, in fact, you do.
We don't need you.
Well,
yeah.
okay.
I mean, and it's like, you know what? I feel like I do what I'm told. You know, I don't like to be where I'm not wanted. And my vote is not wanted in Kamala Harris's inbox. So she's not going to get it. I'm not going to offend her with my dirty, gross left-wing vote. All right. So, Scott, thanks as always.
Thank you.
For filling in. Scott Stantis is the editorial cartoon for the Chicago Tribune, filling in for Manila Chan. He's also a contributor to Center Clip, the winner of the Sigma Delta Chi Journalism Award, and co-hosts with me the DMZ America podcast. And
get well soon, Manila. We're thinking of you.
We are posting a new one later today, which we recorded yesterday, but it's being produced with bells and whistles. So we're kind of going through a transition where, as we do more of them, it's getting to be, we're going to iron out all the kinks on DMZ, but it should be good. Anyway, as for here, as well as on DMZ, please subscribe to the TMI show, both on
the subscribe button
and on YouTube. On Rumble, we ask you to please become a paid subscriber. That's only $5 a month, so we can keep doing the show for you. If you're enjoying what you see and you find value in what we're doing, please help us continue our work. We are fully independent and we rely on subscribers to help us not starve. So click on that button right below the Rumble chat to help support the show. In reality, I'm not going to starve. I'm probably just going to get some editing job or something. So, you know, but like, you know, I would have to stop doing the show if I did that. So if you care about it, same thing on YouTube. YouTube, you can subscribe and you can contribute. So please do that. And thank you so much. That's it. Thank you for Putinbot Gaming for rising to the occasion on a difficult day for the TMI show. And we will, of course, talk to you again tomorrow. Thanks, everybody.